Hello friends, I am Krishna Mohan, an IAS officer from 1977 batch of Haryana cadre. I retired in the rank and scale of Chief Secretary from Government of Haryana. I am going to talk about a very interesting topic, and that is ethics case study. As you know, civil servants face a number of ethical situations in their career when they are posed with ethical challenges and dilemmas. So suddenly they find that there are many options available in respect of a dilemma, and then they have to choose the right option out of those. And this requires a lot of analytical powers, thinking and analyzing the situation. So the civil service, through its various examinations, tried to test whether an officer is rational, whether he is secular, and whether he is ethical. The mains examination, through many papers, including one paper which is GS4 paper, Ethics, Integrity and Aptitude, along with the interviews, also tries to test by posing certain situations of such ethical dilemmas in the form of case study before these aspirants, in order to test whether they will be able to stand in their 35 years of service as a civil servant whenever they are posed with such complicated situations concerning various case studies. So one such ethics case study we are going to discuss today. In days to follow, we will discuss other case studies also. But today's case study is a very, very interesting case study. And this case study actually relates to the export of drugs from India to another country. So you are working as the Drug Controller General of India. And recently, a pharmaceutical company was denied permission for selling certain medicines in the Indian market, as it did not pass the regulatory standards fixed by your office. However, there was no provision in the current rules to prohibit the pharma company from exporting these medicines to other countries. So the company, fearing loss because it did not meet the standards in the domestic market, so therefore they thought that there would be huge loss, they will have to suffer. So they decided to export these medicines to some countries outside India in Africa. But after a few months, reports of children dead from those countries started pouring in. So the WHO started an investigation and found that this pharma company's medicines were substandard and caused a reaction amongst the children in those countries. And this has actually brought a lot of international furor as to how the permission to export these substandard medicines was granted to this particular company. And your office, since you are the Drug Controller General of India, is coming under lot of fire, lot of criticism. The media is gunning after you, and you are also under pressure from the health minister to handle this matter rather delicately, sensitively, and not to let the issue get out of hand, because it so happens that the company is owned by a relative of the health minister. So now there is a predicament. On one hand, it is your moral obligation to ensure justice for those children for having allowed those medicines to reach the international market, even though they were substandard, because there was no such rule prohibiting these medicines from getting exported. But nevertheless, children have died, and as a result of which there is lot of international pressure. दूसरे देशों का बहुत ज्यादा प्रेशर है, मीडिया भी आपके खिलाफ चल रही है. अब आपको कुछ ऐसा एक्शन लेना है जिससे क्रेडिबिलिटी भी स्टैब्लिश हो सके, और साथ में आपके ऊपर एक दूसरा प्रेशर है हेल्थ मिनिस्टर का, जो कि कहता है इसको सेंसिटिवली डील करो, इस प्रॉब्लम को, मैटर्स को हाथ से मत निकलने दो, क्योंकि वो कंपनी जो है वो ओन की जाती है उसके एक रिलेटिव के द्वारा. So, what are the typical questions here? What are the choices available to you to handle the situation? What would be your choice of action to attend to this particular matter immediately? And third is, what are the long-term solutions, the way forward to prevent such a situation from occurring again? तो क्या चीज है, तीन इश्यूज है इसके अंदर. पहला, क्या आपके पास ऑप्शंस अवेलेबल हैं जिससे कि आप इस हैंडल कर सकें इस सिचुएशन को, जो कि बड़ी ही सेंसिटिव है, इंटरनेशनल लेवल पर हमारी देश की स्टैंडिंग का मामला है, दूसरे देशों का प्रेशर है, WHO ने इंक्वायरी करनी शुरू कर दी है। दूसरा ये कि जितने भी ऑप्शंस आपके सामने हैं, विच इज द बेस्ट ऑप्शन विच यू वुड लाइक टू टेक in order to meet this particular situation. And thirdly, what are you going to be your recommendation so that such a thing does not happen in future? Now, what are the stakeholders involved? The stakeholder, obviously, one of them is you. You are the protagonist. You are the Drug Controller General of India. So, you are one of the stakeholder. Other stakeholder, the pharmaceutical company and also the WHO, the World Health Organization. तीसरा स्टेकहोल्डर है वो बच्चे और उनके रिलेटिव्स, जो कि बच्चे जो मर गए और उनके रिलेटिव जो बार बार इसके अंदर मांग कर रहे हैं इसके अंदर इंक्वायरी की जाए, और पीपल ऑफ दोस कंट्रीज इन अफ्रीका, क्योंकि वहां की भी इंटेलिजेंसिया जो अफ्रीका की है वो भी मांग कर रही है कि ये बच्चे जो मरे हैं वो एक सब स्टैंडर्ड मेडिसिन से मरे हैं, तो इसके अंदर देखना आवश्यक है कि ये कैसे अलाउ किया गया। चौथा स्टेक होल्डर है वो हेल्थ मिनिस्टर, जो आप पर दबाव डाल रहा है। और पांचवा, वर्ल्ड के अंदर जो दूसरी कंट्रीज है, अदर कंट्रीज इन द वर्ल्ड, बिकॉज एज सच सर्टेन सिचुएशन, सिमिलर सिचुएशन में ऑल्सो रेकर देयर ऑल्सो, तो दे आर ऑल्सो द स्टेक होल्डर। क्योंकि एक कंट्री में एक्सपोर्ट अलाउ कर दिया और अगर दूसरी कंट्रीज जो है वहां पर भी सिमिलर सिचुएशन हो जाती तो इंटरनेशनल लेवल पर हमारी स्टैंडिंग काफी अफेक्ट होती, तो दूसरी कंट्रीज जो है वो भी इसके अंदर स्टेक होल्डर बनती। अब लेट अस सी द एथिकल इश्यूज इन्वॉल्व। ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है आइडेंटिफाई करना कि एथिकल इश्यूज इन्वॉल्व क्या है, क्योंकि हमें केस स्टडी को सॉल्व करना है स्टेप बाय स्टेप इन ए वेरी सिस्टमैटिक मैनर। जैसे मैंने आपसे कहा कि सबसे पहले हमें समझना होगा कि वो केस स्टडी है क्या, फिर केस स्टडी के अंदर क्या क्या इश्यूज इन्वॉल्व हैं, कौन कौन स्टेक होल्डर हैं, कौन कौन से ऑप्शंस अवेलेबल हैं, कौन सा बेस्ट ऑप्शन है और आगे के लिए क्या आप रेकमेंड करेंगे। दिस इज द वे यू विल प्रोसीड विद द केस स्टडी। तो व्हाट आर द एथिकल इश्यूज? पहला एथिकल इश्यूज इसके अंदर ऑब्वियसली इन्वॉल्व है ह्यूमन हेल्थ और बिजनेस। क्या महत्वपूर्ण है? ह्यूमन हेल्थ वर्सेस बिजनेस। नंबर 2 is the corporate ethics, corporate responsibility. Ethics must be practiced in business at the corporate level. Number 3 is the moral correctness and image of the country. Fourth is value of human life, which is very precious. Fifth is integrity and impartiality. By whom? The protagonist. Because you have to take action. You have to demonstrate that you exercise integrity and impartiality in solving this particular problem, an ethical situation, a case study which is very sensitive. Then law versus ethics. Law है और ethics दोनों इंपॉर्टेंट है। लॉ का क्या वायलेशन हुआ है कि नहीं, अगर नहीं भी हुआ है तो भी एथिकली ये इशू बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है, क्योंकि इसके अंदर द लाइव्स ऑफ द चिल्ड्रन आर इन्वॉल्व। Then accountability principle and responsibility. These two are very important values which are required in a civil servant. And then professional ethics, your professional ethics, you are the protagonist. Now lastly is the international. So international ethics which need to be exercised at the international level, that also will become an ethical issue. Now let us see the answer. So this case study presents several issues for handling the matter with integrity, impartiality and also humanistically, with a human face, because it involves matters of life and death. Element of humanism is always there, and it also needs issues of loopholes in the present system so that necessary amendment in the rules can be made, ताकि ये सिचुएशन दोबारा इसकी पुनरावृत्ति ना हो, फ्यूचर में ऐसी सिचुएशन दोबारा ना आए। So let us see the choices available. पहली choice, पहला option, one can tell the media that your office did not do anything wrong because current rules, regulations, provisions did not prohibit the company from exporting the drugs and the medicine. तो पहला option तो ये है, you can wash your hands off, you tell the media the present rules do not prohibit them. The second option is you take responsibility, you accept responsibility for the mishap and revoke the license of that company to manufacture medicines in India. यानी आप उस कंपनी का लाइसेंस कैंसिल कर देंगे क्योंकि इतनी बड़ी दुर्घटना हुई है, उसकी मेडिसिन सब स्टैंडर्ड थी जिनके कारण कई बच्चों की जान चली गई है। तो आप ऐसे कंपनी, क्योंकि आपके देश के अंदर उस कंपनी की जो मेडिसिन थी वो सब स्टैंडर्ड होने के कारण रिजेक्ट कर दी गई थी, तो ऐसी कंपनी जो कि सब स्टैंडर्ड मेडिसिन बना रही है उसका लाइसेंस क्यों ना हम रद्द कर दे, कैंसिल कर दे। तीसरा ऑप्शन है that instead of revoking or the license or cancelling the license of the company can be suspended for a while, for some time, and order an investigation through an independent committee into the matter to find out what exactly went wrong. So instead of taking immediate knee-jerk reaction, for example, cancelling the license would be a knee-jerk reaction, but instead of taking a knee-jerk reaction to the matter, you can constitute a committee consisting of experts who can go into the issue in detail and then come out with a finding in a time-bound manner. At the same time, you need to tell the minister that this particular is a very sensitive matter and we have to handle it delicately because it involves the prestige of the country and the lives of the children. So now, choice of action. What is the best option available? Out of the three options which we have talked about, which is the best option? So whenever you do that, you must find out the merits and demerits of each of the option. It will always be a good thing when you answer this question in the case study part of the GS4 paper to make a table listing out the option 1, 2, 3, the merits of each option and the demerits of each. And then out of those options, recommend the best option. तो इस केस में the best course of action would include the third option. तो जो तीसरा ऑप्शन है जहां पर कि आप उसका लाइसेंस सस्पेंड कर देंगे and in the meanwhile constitute a committee which will go into the matter. So suspending the license while the investigation is in progress shows immediate action and responsiveness, and that is going to demonstrate that you are accountable to the system, you have promptly acted on that particular issue, and the public will also repose trust in the government. So with those countries where these children have died. And constituting an independent committee of experts to thoroughly investigate into this matter and submit a report in a very, very time-bound fashion would automatically ensure that fair and due process has been followed to reach the conclusion. So this is the option, best option suited to the situation. But we have not finished. There is also a requirement of making suitable amendment in the rules and regulations so that such a thing does not happen in future. So what are the long-term solution to prevent such an issues from occurring again? After all, it's a very sad incident which has happened, but such incident should not recur in future. So reforms in the existing rules, amendment in the existing rules and regulation needs to be made so that a company that has not passed local regulations should not be allowed to export. अब जो कंपनी लोकल डोमेस्टिक रूल्स रेगुलेशन को नहीं पास कर रही है उसकी मेडिसिन, how can they be allowed to export medicines outside? Because human beings are everywhere. They are all the same, whether in this country or another country. And we have to take adequate precautions that if a company has not passed, its medicines have not passed the requisite standard, such a medicine should not be allowed to be exported. So necessary amendment in the rules has to be made. And there is a need to hold stakeholders meetings regularly. And for bringing down the amendment also, you need to consult the manufacturers because it is necessary a consultative process. You have to do consultation with the stakeholders involved before you make amendment so that a standard procedure is followed in making amendment of the rules by listening to all the stakeholders involved. And a rule of disclosure of conflict of interest must also be instituted, because if the minister was showing interest in this matter because the company belonged to one of his relatives, therefore a rule must be instituted that whenever there is a conflict of interest, the person concerned must disclose that he has got interest because his relation is one of the owners of the company. So this conflict of interest issue also needs to be highlighted. So let us summarize this case study. The drugs exported by a pharmaceutical company led to the death of children in Africa. And this drug is prohibited to sell drugs in the domestic market. But due to the absence of legal mechanism in India, the company can export this prohibited drug to other countries in the world. And your office as Drug Controller General of India is coming under a lot of heat, lot of criticism by the international media as well as the countries abroad to take some action. But at the same time, the health minister is trying to tell you to handle this matter delicately because he has got certain interest in the matter. So this is typically a case of ethical dilemma, and such dilemmas and challenging situation will come to you throughout your career as a civil servant, and therefore it is necessary to do as many exercises as possible in respect of these case studies because they form almost 50% of the GS4 paper. So 125 marks are allocated to the case study generally, and this paper is a very important paper but very scoring paper also. तो ये जो केस स्टडी है ये हाईलाइट करती है रियल सिचुएशन ऑन द ग्राउंड. A civil servant has to face such kind of real situations on the ground. So we will discuss another case study on a subsequent day. Till then, goodbye to all of you.